Somewhere. I hope you finished that in your head. Yes, you know that song. That was an octave, an interval between the same note in two different registers. The piano has those repeating patterns of keys, white keys and black keys, and each one is an octave. We talked about scales earlier, and most scales commonly used in popular and classical music have 8 notes, the 8th note being the repetition of the first one. The distance between the notes is where the music lives, in part. I think intervals are probably the most important part of music. Intervals play a role in melody, like you just heard from the beginning of Somewhere Over the Rainbow. That octave leap between the first 2 notes is so distinctive. But the distance between notes matters not only in a melody, and small steps, big leaps, it all matters, but also in a chord. As we discussed, chords are made up of notes with different intervals between them. And the intervals are named, first of all, some of it is purely convention. Major, minor, perfect, augmented, diminished. Those words came into use and they are in use now. They're the terminology. And dictionary definitions and reasoning don't always come into it, but know the terminology if you want to talk about this stuff. The distance between 2 notes, including both, gives you the number of the interval. Is it a second, a third, fourth, fifth, sixth, a 13th? And each type of interval is called either minor, major, perfect, augmented, or diminished. So the scale degrees in, let's say, the, hang on while I turn on my piano. How very interesting. I just recorded the entire video without turning the camera on. So in a C major scale, we heard the first note, and then you play it again. That's called unison, which is considered a perfect interval. The last note is an octave. That's considered a perfect interval. The fourth, and the fifth are considered perfect. Those are the first 2 intervals to come about when we start looking at ratios of frequencies. And the other intervals in the scale here are a major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, major seventh, octave. To build a major chord, we start with the root note, and then we go up a major third, 4 semitones, and then we go up a minor third, 3 semitones. So people who talk about music theory talk about stacking. So that's a root with a major third stacked onto it and a minor third stacked on. If we flip those and add a minor third and then a major third, we get a minor chord. So if we take a root and stack on a major third and a minor third, we get a major chord. Stack on a minor third and a major third, we get a minor chord. Now, all of this stuff is terminology and mechanics, and it may not really help much as far as appreciating and in listening to music, but it helps you understand when other people are talking or writing about music. But also sometimes just understanding the mechanics of how things work, understanding that different intervals have a certain feeling. The interval of a fourth, a perfect fifth, the interval of a minor third, interval of a minor seventh. It's all mechanical, but it will help if you're reading sheet music to know the spaces between two notes with the number of spaces and lines. And if you're listening to music and find a melody that particularly appeals, and generally this will apply to an instrumental, because most people who aren't musicians or composers are drawn to songs because of the lyrics, and the melody is easy to sing along with. But if you hear an instrumental that really strikes you and sticks with you, think about the intervals. Sit down at your piano and see if you can play that. Figure out what the interval is and think about what it makes you feel and why you enjoy that feeling. Understanding intervals is not required to appreciating music, but it can help you performing music, and especially if you plan to start writing music. And absolutely, if you're going to be reading about music and listening to people talk about music, it really helps to understand all that terminology, majors, minors, perfects, and all of the numbers. So I hope this has been illuminating rather than obfuscating. And so play with some intervals and see how they make you feel. I'm Joel D. Canfield.